Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at Aggro Sword. This deck is interesting, I would say. It's your pretty standard Aggro Sword, a couple of little buffy type things in here with the casters and the bladed hedgehog, of course, and topping out at kind of the 6 and 5 kind of range, really finishing things off. But it's meant to be highly aggressive. It's probably one of the few actually aggressive decks in the game, other than probably Aggro Forest, which unfortunately I'm missing one card from. Otherwise I'd probably play that, and it happens to be 2 Insect Lords, so I have 1. Otherwise I'd play that deck for you, but this one, pretty good. I mean, as you'll see, the games aren't the best. There's one probably good game, the other 2 were reasonably quick concedes because I just dominated the board pretty quickly and they couldn't really do anything. So we're going to check those out and we'll see how it goes. So first up, we're playing against Rune. Rune is probably the best deck currently, especially when you're playing something like Daria, which if you haven't checked out my Daria deck, I recommend you do. There'll probably be another one coming up soon where I'll look more at a tempo variant instead of a spell variant, but they're always really interesting decks and always fun, for me at least. A lot of people hate them, I love them. Daria I couldn't get enough of. So we start off with a pretty good hand. Quick Blader on 1 is really solid for an aggressive deck, especially when you are going first, where this deck really shines. You will be at a slight disadvantage going second, enough that you're really going to get screwed by something like a Daria deck, but not enough that you can make a comeback against, say, something like Portal or even Dragon, depending on how the match plays out. So I decided to go for the aggressive play, pushing the 2-1 out, even though probably not the best option to actually do. They do decide to go into the owl, which is fine. Me though, I decide full-on aggression is the path. It's the only way. I don't drop anything this turn, but going into the next turn, it's probably worth dropping the Red Riding Hood, even if I can't take full advantage of it. And we happen to draw 2, so we'll drop all of them. I mean, they can't really play anything that's going to be too much of a threat on turn 4. Worst case, they clear the board. Best case, they don't clear the board. I mean, the evolve on the owl is going to suck, so I probably should have thought about that part a little bit more. Other than that though, I think this is solid enough. They do end up with a piercing rune, which is fine. And I think that might be it. Nope, Quick Blader, alright. Looks like they did manage to get the full clear on 4, just probably because of that owl. If I had have cleaned that up, it might not have been so bad. Lucky for me though, Round Table Assembly is going to give me 6 damage right to the face. This is why I like this deck, because the amount of aggressiveness it can deal is absolutely crazy. And considering they can't afford to leave these up, they now are forced to deal with them. I am a little lucky we didn't see a turn 5 Daria. If we had of, I think I would have been in a much worse spot. And now we really want to draw into something, I think, to deal with these. Otherwise, we could be in a spot of trouble, I think. Alrighty, come on, draw. What do we got? Perseus. Not really what I was after. Actually, probably not at all what I was after. But it does mean I can use the Perseus on board just as a threat. With these wards up, we should be okay. Mutagenic, that's actually pretty reasonable. They are going to decide to trade, and we are going to ping 1, by the looks of it. It's actually pretty good that they muted there, and we may happen to get Levian Vanguard. That couldn't have been better. Being able to trade into both of these effectively and leave up something on board when they don't really have any other Storm outside of Blade Mage, and the odds of them having all 3 of them playable now is reasonably low. They do have an owl though. So we don't have lethal here, we're literally 1 off, but we're also only 1 turn away from scoring lethal. So even if I have to drop the Kunoichi and then drop Albert, I should hopefully survive this turn, which means Albert would deal damage. Or we just draw Quick Blader for lethal. I mean, probably the only other way I could go for lethal in this entire deck is Albert, because I think I've already played both my princesses, so they weren't happening. And outside of that, there's nothing that would have fit the curve, so that worked out quite nicely for 6 damage. So our next match is a very quick Sword versus Sword. Aggro Sword isn't the most popular deck, but Sword still has some presence in the current meta, at least enough that I've seen a couple today, which is more than I can say for something like Forest, where I have seen 1 Forest maybe in the last 2 days. And of course, perfect hand. All goblins, all mazies, all princess. We got everything we want. And they get happy pig. Great. Couldn't have asked for a probably more problematic thing to have to deal with this turn. But we can just drop another goblin, I guess. Acts as a kind of natural counter. And kiss the princess. Great. Even worse. A 4/6 pig. That's the story of my life, guys. At least we are going to get to deal a full 4 damage. Pretty effectively. Now I'm going to go for the trade though. I suppose the only bonus I've got here is that Red Riding Hood is actually going to be able to trade quite effectively, or we could actually just use these goblins and stuff and the Vanguard. Might save, yeah, for Maisie, just in case they have another threat like Levi coming up next. Probably is the better option, honestly. Because that's going to deal with Levi a lot better, considering if they drop to Levi, they're not going to be slamming it into the 1-2. Or, you know, Swordsman. That's another way we go about it, but I believe they concede not being able to deal with this. Yes, there we go. Sword, just obviously they didn't have enough pressure to pressure me out. And last but not least, we're playing against Portal. Portal is always a fun matchup, especially when you're going second. So, Sword going second, interesting one, especially when you don't get the best hand. I mean, Geno, Oathless Knight, and Princess, really doesn't feel great. The Oathless Knight was the only real good play. That's only because it gives me 2/1/1s, which I can potentially buff. So, probably my best option, but we do get Kunoichi anyway, which is actually a better 2-drop because it is stealthed. So, why would we use anything else? But Quick Plater kind of makes up for this hand, allowing us to get a turn 1 play, especially since Portal doesn't usually play a turn 1 play 99% of the time. It's very rare that Portal would ever play a 1-drop, and if it is, it's usually Ancient Amplifier, which to me makes zero bloody difference to the first start of the game. But we do manage to secure the board pretty nicely. 3 followers all at once is going to be hard for them to deal with, especially if we can follow up with a full board using Oathless Knight and Quick Plater again, or we just drop Kunoichi and Quick Plater. Either way, we're going to have a solid board, which is really, really nice. I cannot fault getting those out. We get to deal 2 damage, we get to ping, we have a stealth that's going to be harder for Portal to deal with. They can't evolve yet, so we're not going to see much kind of rush. Unfortunately though, Puppet Strings, probably the only card that could actually clear me out, and I'm surprised they're running it because most Portal decks are not running Puppet Strings anymore. It's just not good enough. Most people run Substitution over it instead, which I think is a much better card. Honestly, it allows you to deal with a 3-drop quite effectively. Albert though, turn 5 on empty board, couldn't ask for a much better play. We get that 5 damage right to their face with that Saber Strike. 5 good damage, plus if we want we can follow up again with another Albert. Even if they clear this, following up with another Albert is basically going to secure us the game pretty neatly. There won't be much to worry about from here at all.
Gravitational control at full power.
Puppet plus Puppet. Not surprising at all. Like, that's going to be the best way to use your Puppet Strings. Throw the puppets now, get them onto the board. There are some interesting Portal decks out there, especially weird ones that look real janky to me, because I've played I would say a reasonable amount of Portal. I've probably played 80 plus games, which isn't as much as some people, trust me. I've got another friend that I talk to, and she's played a lot more Portal than I have, that's for sure. She'd have to be 400 to 500 games nearly by now. Actually, I know she's over 400 because she's in the top of the Portal leaderboards, but even then, you know, Portal's still more player dependent. No matter how good you are, like, it comes down to that fact as a purely. So they are on 6. We have a Princess Juliet, which is pretty good. It's not going to be much good against this 2-3. Although, if we get a nice draw, like this round table, we can actually go and deal 4 damage to their face, while cleaning up this 2-3 nicely and forcing them to have to deal with our board. Portal can't really deal 5 damage off the draw, especially without an evolve, so they're not going to be playing Beast, they're not going to be playing a Radiant Artifact. I mean, what else is there? There's no other Storm for Portal. One day hopefully we'll get a Storm Artifact that isn't Radiant Artifact, that costs 1 or 2, and probably 2 cost 1 damage. That kills itself at the end of turn or something. Something like that maybe we could see. But then that might be too strong because you could ping a lot of damage that way. But if they can't put up another ward, which I don't think they're going to, then Princess Juliet will concede this game for us and allow us to go for victory. Sword doing its job nicely. 2 more damage to face. I also threat the bad just because I can. Extra threats, why not?
This is great.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you'll find the deck list in the description below. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya.